Hi, and welcome to the Writing Center video series. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be discussing personal statements. So there are all kinds of different personal statements out there, but I just want to clarify before we get started that we'll be talking about personal statements for your graduate school application. It might apply to other types of personal statements, but this is the focus. As I refer to sources, a citation will appear here to my right, and you'll be able to find links to the other resources at the end of the video. However, I want to stress that a lot of the opinions in this video are subjective. They come from my experience with personal statements. There's a lot of material on personal statements on the internet, and a lot of it simply contradicts each other. So I want to simplify that information and help you get headed in the right direction to find the resources that will be useful for you. There's going to be a couple of specific tips in here as well that'll help you shape your personal statement. If you haven't started writing yet, do it now. The earlier the better. Months in advance is great. You want plenty of time to have some perspective and look back on it later. And if you've ever written something and looked back at it a semester later, you know that time adds a lot of perspective. That's something that's going to sharpen your essay. I recommend showing your essay to your fellow students and your friends because they'll be able to tell you if your personal statement is getting a good sense of who you are across. Also, take it to your professors, especially if they're in the same field you're applying to. They're going to be able to help you get inside the mind of the person who's sitting down and reading your essay. There's all kinds of feedback on the internet about this is what people want when they read your personal statement. This is what people don't want when they read your personal statement. The crazy thing is they don't usually agree with each other. There's all kinds of contradictions out there. But your professor knows your field, and he or she is going to be able to help you discern what the person reading your essay is looking for. How personal to go, how professional to go, those kind of things. And finally, I'm also going to recommend that you bring it into your writing center or at least send it into the online tutoring center. That way someone who knows what they're doing can look at your craft and make sure that everything's polished and looking nice. No matter what stage of the writing process you're in, the tutors in the writing center can have a conversation with you about how to make your piece something unique and compelling, whether you're in the brainstorming stage or you've already written 3 or 4 drafts and you're just trying to get it polished up. If you're still stuck staring at the blank page, or you just have a little bit but don't know what to do with it, I'd highly recommend that you check out Amber's video right here. It's going to give you all kinds of brainstorming techniques and ideas to just get your writing started. Once you've got something on the page, then we can keep talking about other aspects of the personal statement. Let's talk about a couple of the common issues that we find in personal statements. First, it can be pretty tempting to treat the personal statement as a place to list your accomplishments. But the thing is, you probably already did that in your curriculum vitae or maybe even your resume. Don't waste any words doing the same thing in your personal statement. Here's a good rule of thumb. Write about something you've talked about in your CV or your resume if you'd like, but only if it adds something new that isn't obvious from reading the other parts of your application. Okay, next, and this is the most important thing with personal statements and probably the thing that gets missed the most. Get specific. A personal statement is a place to talk about yourself and your life. And I think a lot of students want to fit in as many things as they can. They want to talk about what they learned from their dad and their first job and their mission and the episode of Star Trek with like the scaly green dinosaur thing in the desert. But the truth is you can't fit all of those things into your essay. What's going to make it very compelling and give the reader a good sense of who you are is to get specific and concrete as possible. The people who read your personal statement are probably very busy and they've got stacks of these things to read. People tend to remember details, and they're going to remember a story much better than a list. Think about the first Star Wars film ever, when Luke and Ben enter the cantina and meet Han Solo. This is the first time we meet Han Solo. We see him negotiate a deal with the Jedi. He plays hardball with them. He brags on himself and his ship and his talents. Then Ben and Luke step away and we see Han Solo shoot a bounty hunter. Then he just gets up from the table and walks away. He's like totally cool about it. We already have a strong sense of him as this roguish character that's going to toe the line between good and evil, and we don't really know what he wants, but we have a good sense of his character. Now, what the filmmakers could have done was show us maybe 100 little scenes of things from his past, his major accomplishments, those kind of things, but they don't really give us as memorable a sense of his character as seeing him in one situation where he has to make a critical decision. Think about how much more memorable that scene is than a Wikipedia page listing facts about a character. It's much more effective storytelling. Use those principles for yourself as well. Today, I had a student come into the Writing Center who was working on a personal statement. This student was actually part of the support staff for the American ski team at the Sochi Olympics. He had some kind of vague statements about how he wanted to help people and see his team, achieve great things, and that he was willing to sacrifice anything, which was okay. It was good to read those things. But then he dove into a story where he talked about having to take his pants off at the support area at the Olympics and give them to a skier so that he could get up onto the podium just seconds later. That was a really detailed example of how he had to make a decision in a given situation, and that decision told a lot more about him than anything else. You don't need to talk about some crisis or decision moment in your life necessarily, although that could be great if you've got a good example. You might choose a different type of moment in your life, a different scene where maybe you learned something or something happened that greatly affected you. Ultimately, it's up to you and what you sense is going to make you memorable. Other great examples of introductory scenes for characters might be the Oracle in The Matrix or Aragorn in the first Lord of the Rings. The Writing Center has an essay online with a bunch of examples of writing that starts out as kind of fact-oriented or maybe just listing nice things, but then changes to detail and story-oriented. And I'd recommend you check that out. Here's a link to it right here. As you continue drafting your personal statement, show it to professors in your department, and not just ones you've done research with before or know on a personal level. There are going to be lots of professors in your school that know the subject you're writing about well and know the department that you're trying to apply for. However, they don't know you. And so they're going to have an interesting perspective on your personal statement that's going to be somewhat similar to the people who are evaluating it later. They don't know you, they don't know the research and the work that you've done, and they're going to see your personal statement for what it is on its own, exactly like it's going to have to be before the people who evaluate it. Also, like I mentioned before, there's just tons of resources out there on personal statements. Chances are the specific department you're applying for already has a document detailing what they want to see in their personal statements, and this is not going to be in the same place as the prompt a lot of the time. These documents can be a little bit hard to find, but dig around on the website of the program you're applying for. That department may have published a list of tips telling you exactly what they want you to do on their personal statement. They want you to be successful. As an example, here's a pretty frank list published by the Pre-Law School at the University of Utah, right here. They get straight to the point about what they want to see in your personal statement, what they don't want to see. If you can find something like this by the very department you're applying for, it'll be 1,000 times more useful than just going on Google and searching personal statement example. And bring your personal statement into the Writing Center. I can't drill that enough. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you there.
All right, guys, if you want to schedule an appointment with the Writing Center, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch more tutorials from tutors at the Writing Center, click right here.